I spent years fucking around with different LUTs, presets, filters, trying to get that perfect cinematic black and white color grade that you see in films and whatnot these days. But I figured out how to do it, and it is way easier than I thought, so I actually feel kind of stupid, but that's alright, we move. So this is how to achieve that perfect cinematic black and white juice, kind of like what you're seeing right now. Key tips before we begin. If black and white was a sheep, exposing the shot well would be considered Jesus. Film grain is extremely visible and effective in black and white, so use it wisely. Sharpness rules the entire color grading dynasty, as there are no other colors to draw your attention to or distract your mind from all the little details. And think of contrast as a friend with benefits. She secretly likes it when you expose well, and knows that sometimes it's beneficial for the both of you to get a little saucy. So let's begin. So here we are in Davinci Resolve 19 beta, my favorite app, woohoo! These are the clips we're going to color grade. So these are some shots that I shot yesterday for a little TikTok short film that I'll be making. These shots were lit very softly, as you can see in the behind the scenes, compared to the intro of today's video, which has a lot of it's lit quite soft, but it's got a lot of hard light in the background and whatnot, creating a lot of depth. We're going to do the color grade, and I'm going to show you how it kind of works in the different lighting situations and scenarios. So pop over to the coloring panel in Davinci Resolve. If you guys have watched my last video, you will know that I'll be editing Rec 709 straight out of my DSLR kind of footage, because I can't shoot RAW or log. But if you do shoot RAW or any of that kind of stuff with fancier cameras, you just need to put a color space transform node at the beginning and at the end to transfer it into Rec 709 and Gamma 2.4 and whatever. But in this case, just imagine that's already done, and now we're on to the first step of the color grade, which, as always, is white balance. So we're going to right click, we're going to go label node, and we're going to go WB for white balance. Now, what I usually do is just grab this little color picker tool, and I just click something white in the image, and there you go, corrected, hooray. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this clip, because all of these clips here were shot on the same kind of white balance. So we're going to click this little thing, we're going to click the white towers, and boom, the whites have been balanced. So we're going to hop back over to the first clip. The first step, there's kind of two steps. The first step is bleach bypass, and the second step is the actual look. So we're going to start by adding a bleach bypass effect over the shot. And I'll show you the difference once it's color graded when I turn bleach bypass on and off. So what we're going to do is going to hold Alt, we're going to press S twice, we're going to come over, actually we're going to press it one more time, we're going to come over to this middle node here, we're going to right click, we're going to go to add node, and we're going to do add parallel node. Move that one out the way, put this one up like that. Alright, this first one will be our adjustment, so we're going to go node label, ADJ for adjustment. This is where we create our bleach bypass. We're going to click the bottom one. We're going to go down to saturation, and we're going to drag the saturation all the way down. We're then going to click the top node. We're going to right click that, and we're going to go to, where are we? Composite mode at the very bottom, and hard light. This is our bleach bypass effect. It's quite strong at the minute, but if we go to our adjustments, we can adjust the exposure over here. So I'm going to bring up the gamma just a bit, gamma, whatever you call it. And then we're going to drag down the gain just a tad. I'm going to do that one more time just to kind of roll off the highlights a little nicer. There you go. As you can see, if I just go and turn this on and off, the highlights kind of roll across quite nicely. Maybe I just bring up the highlights just a bit, actually. All right, there we go. Once you've got your adjustment done, we're going to highlight all of these, and we're going to go right click all the way down to the bottom, create compound node. So now it's in a cute little group. Hooray. Now we're going to right click that again, and we're going to label that BB for bleach bypass. Now we're onto the look. So we grab this node here, a second node which will be our vignette, another node for halation, another node for glow, and another node for our grain. Now we're going to grab all of these, we're going to right click, and we're going to go create compound node. And this right here if we right click and label it, this will be our black and white and our effects. So if we right click, we go show compound node, we're in the group now, so then we can go to our first one, which we will label saturation. We'll then label our second one Vig for vignette. Then we'll label our third one Hal for halation. Then we'll label the fourth one, just write glow. Then we'll put the fifth one as grain. Actually, scratch that. Actually, no, do that. Grain, and then we're going to add another node, and that's going to be our sharpness for the clips that aren't very sharp. Because like I said, when your image is in black and white, there are no colors to distract the viewer's eyes, so people focus on things like the detail and the sharpness and all that kind of stuff, so you've got to be very particular with it. So we've added a sharpness node so we can add a bit of sharpness in areas that we need to add a bit of sharpness. Come back to our first node, saturation. We're going to go down to the saturation down here, and we're going to drag that all the way down. I'm going to go back so I can show you what the bleach bypass kind of does. If I turn the bleach bypass off, we have a very flat image. Now this, can be a look if that's what you're going for, but I don't really like it. There's no depth to it. And like I said earlier, again, black and white, it's all about the details and the depth. So I'm going to bring back my bleach bypass and look at that. Oof, that is cinematic. So anyways, back to our black and white and effects. If we go back into that folder, we've done our saturation, now we're onto our vignette. So if we go vignette, and we drag a vignette on, light. We do not want to overdo it with our vignette because this flattens our image out. See, if I add, here, look, I'll show you. I add a vignette like that and I turn it on and off. Look at the difference. It's kind of flattening out those whites, which is kind of like removing the bleach bypass filter. So we kind of want it very light to resemble the characteristics of kind of like an old vintage lens. So right there, I think is about right. That way we're keeping a bit of the detail around these areas and rolling off the bright corners just a tad. Now we move over to halation. Drag on halation. If you're using the free version of Davinci Resolve, you won't be able to use halation, but if you just grab the film look creator, I'll put it on here. As you can see, if you scroll down, halation is there, glow is there, and grain is there, or bloom is there, and grain is there. Bloom's kind of the same as glow, so you've kind of got all three here. But anyway, we're going to reset that. I'm going to head back to our halation. Now halation is fun. Kind of adds this old filmic red kind of tinge to the brightest parts of your image, as you can see here. If I turn it on and off, on, what am I saying? On, off, there you go. You see that? That's quite nice, but if we go full screen, it's very strong. So if we, come back. If we increase the threshold just a tad, it should start to disappear. Of course, it's still visible in the super bright areas, as you can see right here and right here, even a little bit around the speaker. I'll turn it on and off. There you go. Which is quite nice. I actually do like that. But once again, we go full screen. That's very strong. So we're going to come down to our gamma and we're just going to lower that a tad, and we're going to lower our strength just a tad as well. So if we come back to full screen, there we go. Nice and subtle. If I turn that on and off, you can see the difference that it makes down here on the super highlighted parts. Now you're going to see when I drag this kind of color grade onto the other clips, because they were shot a lot softer, these clips here, you're not going to see the halation, because it only kind of works on the super bright overexposed parts of the image, or edges I suppose. But that's what I think is pretty cool, because it kind of works realistic to that of film, and how the super bright parts kind of react, or the super harsh light kind of reacts to the film. So anyway, if we go back into our effects, drag the glow effect onto the glow tab, and oof! Did you see that? Look at that. If that doesn't scream 50s, 60s, black and white, film bloom, I don't know what does. Love it. Not much that needs to be said here. just chuck it on. The way the settings are already set up is just like perfect in my opinion, so we're just going to leave that there. Now we move on to the grain. Add your film grain node. This is another one that isn't available if you're in the free version of Davinci Resolve, but like I said, just use that film look editor that I showed you earlier because it's got grain in it. Then we're going to go to the film grain preset, scroll all the way down and click 35-200T. I don't know why, I like this one. This is the best in my opinion. We're going to increase the grain strength to about 450. Click advanced controls. Decrease the grain in the shadows just a tad because we kind of want to keep those blacks clean. And maybe just a tad in the highlights as well to keep those highlights blooming nice and clean. Now we move on to the sharpness. I'm going to zoom in. I honestly think this clip is quite sharp, but if you do want to sharpen it a bit more, come down here to this section. I don't even know what this section's called, but we're going to click this one over here, which is the sharpening, and then your default setting is going to be here, but if you just click this little triangle, we can adjust the sharpness. Now if you have a look at the detail in my facial hair here and like the SHURE logo, when we start to bring it down, it becomes a lot more detailed. So this is very, very finicky. Like it's the slightest little, it's sensitive. The slightest little pull down of the sharpness and it's going to do heaps. So we're going to reset that. And I think we're going to sit around maybe 46. I feel like it's probably a bit too sharp. 47. So if we turn that on and off, look at the difference that it makes. On, off, on, off, on, off. On, off, on. Okay, you get the point. So that right there is our black and white. If I remove the effects, that's what it looks like with just the bleach bypass. And if I remove the bleach bypass, that's how flat and boring our image looks. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the soft clips now. But another thing I just want to quickly point out, I shot this clip and these clips here shooting into the bright part of my face. So I wasn't kind of shooting the shadow side as you see on these clips here. It's completely up to you. A lot of cinematographers like to shoot the dark side of the face. Because I was doing an intro to a video, I didn't really think too much about which way the lighting's going to fall on my face. It was more about the different kind of levels of lighting in the background and whatnot. As you can see here, we've got a bright kind of background that falls into dark hair, that falls into a light side of the face, that falls into the dark side of the face, that falls into the bright side of the face, that falls into the dark kind of microphone area, that kind of falls into the light blooming area. So it's kind of this black, white, black, white, black, white that kind of adds depth to your image. I can't freaking speak today. That's kind of what I was going for, so that's why I lit up this kind of side of my face. Whereas in a situation like this, I didn't really have a choice because I want it to be nice, natural soft light coming through the diffused sheer curtain on my window, and I didn't really want to use artificial light, so I was just forced to shoot the kind of bright side of the image. And then the other side, as you can see, there's a shower, so I couldn't really shoot there. So anyway, if we come back to this clip and we right click and go grab still, and we come over to this clip and we go gallery, in our stills section, we should have our grade. And if we just grab that and drag that onto this image and get rid of the gallery, there you go. Here is your classic black and white. If we remove the bleach bypass, that's how flat it looks. So we're going to bring that back. And we might even go into the bleach bypass folder and adjust it a little bit. So we can bring down the shadows just a bit more, and we can bring up the highlights just a bit more, just to make it that little bit more contrasty. Because when dealing with black and white, contrast, as I mentioned earlier, is crucial. If you're not worrying about contrast, look how flat your image can get. Add a little bit of contrast and we can still see the details in the hair and the black areas and blah blah blah. So I can just come along and drag the still onto all of my clips and correct them accordingly. This clip here I think needs to be pulled down a little bit more in the shadows and lift a little bit more in the bright areas. Once again, adding that little bit of contrast goes a long way. So if we turn that on and off, we adjust the image here in the adjustments and we add a bit more contrast. This clip is entirely kind of naturally brighter because the light's kind of bouncing off these tiles in the background. I like the way this looks already. Now we're still not overexposed in these areas here, which is why we're not seeing much halation even if we go full screen here, which is nice. It's smooth, and the halation only really kicks in when things are a bit too bright and overexposed, like if I was to just film a light bulb. I'm going to let this little video play now so you can see all the clips in black and white and make up your mind as to whether or not this type of black and white color grading is for you. And with all of that wrapped up, I just want to say thank you to everybody who commented in my last video. Tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff to improve this video and videos going forward. If you guys like this video, you guys know what to do. Comment would mean the world because the algorithm, yeah, I don't need to explain it. And as always, if I am so lucky to get your yeah, it would genuinely be much appreciated. It will not go overlooked. So with all of that, I will catch you guys in a few days. We're on that YouTube grind, so got to keep going while we're motivated. Anyways, see ya.